Use it, share it, be careful. Don't give people an edible just to start with. Find something that makes sense.
Welcome to the Well with Cannabis podcast, a show dedicated to telling the life-changing stories of those who live well with cannabis, all while teaching you how to do the same. Meet your host, Emily Kyle, a registered dietitian nutritionist turned certified holistic cannabis practitioner. Emily changed her life for the better with the help of the cannabis plant, and now she is committed to helping others do the same. Tune in each week to hear heartwarming stories and gain the knowledge you need to feel connected, inspired, and supported on your own cannabis journey. Whether you're a new cannabis consumer or a lifetime lover, you'll benefit from these uplifting tales of real-life journeys that will show you how you too can live your best life well with cannabis.
Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to share a note on potentially sensitive content. The episodes on the Well with Cannabis podcast are created for adult audiences only. We will at times cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, sex, drugs, alcohol, psychedelics, and the obvious use of plant medicine. Explicit language may be used occasionally. Please refrain from watching or listening to the show if you're likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. The information on this show is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. If any of the content on this podcast has brought up anything for you, please reach out or speak to a professional or someone you trust. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Well with Cannabis podcast. And I am super excited today to be here with Bradley McQuiddy, who has quite the crazy story. And Bradley, I'm super excited. Hello and welcome. How are you today?
Good morning, Emily. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being willing to share your story because it sounds like a doozy. Would you mind getting us acquainted to who you are and how you kind of got here?
Sure. So I'm Bradley McQuiddy. I'm from the Texas Panhandle. I'm 63 years old. And on December 21st, I had a heart attack. I've been a cannabis user for my whole life. And I was in the hospital recovering from open heart surgery. And I was really nauseous, really sick. And one of my nurses noticed I had long hair and a beard, I guess. And she's like, by chance, have you used cannabis? And my wife goes, pretty much every day since 1970 something. Yeah. And so the nurse said, do you have your card? And we said, yes. And she goes, if the doctor says yes, you can use your cannabis in the hospital. It's been on the books since 2019. I'm the second patient in all those years to use cannabis. Nobody's used it. But you have to ask your doctor, and your doctor has to give you permission. You can't vape or smoke, but creams, tinctures, lotions, edibles, all that kind of stuff work great.
Oh my gosh. And you're in Texas, you said? That's so
I was
exciting.
in Oklahoma. I'm from Texas. No, I live in Oklahoma, and I've got my card and was working at UPS and had a heart attack.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'm alive.
True. Yes. Glad you're here.
So no, I was having real problems with nausea after I'd had surgery. Reactions from the anesthetic.
Yeah.
And through the whole day, I'd had 6 crackers. And that's when the nurse was like, do you use cannabis? Yeah. Would you like to hear? I'm like, yeah. And so my wife went to the dispensary and told them what was going on. And there's a company called Bison and Rose, which was actually started by doctors. And they have a nerve cream that we used. They, I believe they made the FICO tincture that we used. And they definitely made an under the tongue sublingual called Rest that I used to help me sleep.
Oh my gosh. To be able to use this in the hospital without sneaking it has to be the best feeling. I can't believe you had such open-minded professionals there. I'm so impressed.
And it was a nurse in the CCU that brought it up. And the doctor was like, yeah, we don't have anything that's going to treat pain or nausea like the cannabis will if you're used to using it. As long as it's legal, you're good to go.
I mean, it's such an encouragement. All right, Bradley, tell me a little bit. You're in Oklahoma, and a lot of times people have this misconception that the South is fairly anti-cannabis, but it sounds like you've had a really great experience with the medical system. How has that worked out for you?
It worked out surprisingly well. And I'm new to Oklahoma, and that we moved here last June, at the end of June from Colorado. We were looking for someplace with legal cannabis. We'd moved to Colorado from Texas to take advantage of legal cannabis. We found it very crowded and very expensive in Colorado, and we were dismayed by the state of the cannabis market compared to what we could get in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, it's very progressive, surprisingly enough, kind of. I don't think people expect that.
Right.
But the two products two product lines that I used in the hospital, one was created by a pediatric nurse who had a background in bath bombs, and she's got a product called the Pain Stick, which is 1,000 milligram THC, 1,000 milligram CBD, plus some other things, and it's like a deodorant stick. I just rubbed it on my chest around my incision. And I also used Bison and Rose's nerve cream, and those things helped with the pain just immeasurably.
Oh, I'm so happy. So
when my wife went to the dispensary and told them I was having problems with nausea, they said, get this FICO tincture. It's a FICO oil, but it's in a tincture, so it's more liquidy. And 6 people turned around at once, the customers and the bud tenders, everybody in that dispensary turned around at once and said, put it in his belly button.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that. How did that work for you?
It's an old Ayurvedic thing, and it worked great.
Oh,
I'd never heard of it before and never tried it. And it's a trick we'll use all for the rest of our lives. What a great method of putting it in the body.
When you brought it up to your doctor, were you nervous, and how did your doctor react?
No, my nurse brought it up to my doctor. My nurse brought it up to me and to my doctor. It was the nurse. And the doctor's like, yeah, if he's got his card. It didn't take him 5 minutes to decide. And within, I'd say 20 minutes of when they had originally asked us, we had a security guard there with a lockbox for us to use. It was amazing. And it came all from them. We never asked. It wasn't from us at all. And so we didn't talk about it. But I'm from the Panhandle of Texas. I'm from Hemp Hill County. I was born in Hemp Hill County at 4:20 in the morning.
Yeah, that is too perfect.
Yeah. No, I've been a lifelong cannabis user, and I was.
What has it? Most people find Texas to be quite cannabis unfriendly. How has your experience been down there?
Once you got to that side, no, it's a hanging offense in Texas, and they're very anti-cannabis.
Yeah, it is crazy. And so you said you actually moved from Texas to Colorado because of cannabis?
Absolutely. And my wife and I were both caregivers. She's now finished school and is a medical coder, but we were both elder caregivers and could see the advantages of using cannabis with elder care. And so had moved to Colorado to do that, and didn't care for the Colorado. It wasn't a good fit for us. So we stayed our year for our lease on our house, and then moved to Oklahoma, where we found better cannabis laws. The prices are so much cheaper than they were in Colorado. It's unbelievable.
That is crazy, because most people think Colorado is more progressive and that Oklahoma might be more backwards. But to hear the opposite is really exciting for people who live in Oklahoma.
I was very surprised by that, and the array of products and the medicine and professionalism behind the medical group of products is really, it's got to make you enthusiastic. It's got to make you believe it.
Absolutely. Now, do you know, are they incorporating cannabis? You said you were the second person ever to use cannabis in the hospital. Are they becoming more friendly with that, or how is that progressing? I
think so. And I think one of the things that's come out of this, I had a really severe heart attack and had open heart surgery, had a quintuple bypass. And I think my life's definitely changing, and I think I'm going to do education. One of the things I'm going to do is do some education with seniors and with other people about the advantages of cannabis and how you can incorporate it into your traditional healthcare.
I feel like our senior population could find the most benefit from cannabis. To hear that you want to provide that education, because I feel like that's the missing piece, is just the education. And if they had that, they would feel more comfortable being able to say, I think I'm going to give this a try.
My wife and I have both done some consulting with some older people, and our tagline is, so you won't have to ask your kids.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
My wife came up with that.
I love it. It's so true because if folks don't have a friend to talk to about it or a relative, and then the next best thing is your kids, and perhaps if your kids aren't into it, then where do you go? So having that is amazing. Are you starting a business in Oklahoma? How is that going?
It seems like that's kind of the direction I'm getting pulled in.
Yeah.
And I think it'll go well. I've talked to some people and everybody seems to be very open about it. And one of the things we talked about in the hospital was doing classes for healthcare providers.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so needed.
And if we can teach them about RSO and about FICO and about where the medicine really lives. And, we're not just spraying gummies with distillate to get high. We're actually using full spectrum whole plant, the entourage effect, and we're taking the medicine to people.
I mean, I just imagine what our world would look like if someone like you could come into a hospital and to say to someone in pain, I have a different option if you want to try it, and provide a little bit of background information. I just can't imagine not only how much better people would feel, but how much less reliant people would be on other medications that could make them sicker. So, I mean, this is just the future, what you're doing.
Absolutely. Now, if you look at the states where they've legalized medical cannabis, the amount of opioids that are consumed by that state, I believe, have all gone down.
And I mean, when we think about the opioid crisis and how it affects people and how terrible and devastating it is, we have a somewhat viable solution, especially for pain, that is not addictive and does not have the side effects. And as we get deeper and deeper into the opioid crisis, I don't know why people aren't shouting from the rooftops more that there is a safer alternative out there.
Because it's been marginalized and stigmatized by the media and by the government for the last 100 years. And they did a good job.
I'm still shocked to hear that the hospital allowed you to take it in, and I shouldn't be, but I am.
And it was their idea. I keep coming back to that, but it was their idea.
Crazier.
It wasn't me, the old stoner, going, hey, can I use my grass in a hospital? It was the hospital going, hey, do you have your medical card? Because if you do, there are things that'll help you better than what we have here.
It's like if every nurse could do that, or if every nurse felt comfortable enough, or that they would be supported by their own healthcare team and their own practice, that would be just even a suggestion. I'm sure it made all the difference in your recovery as well.
It made a huge difference. And I put the pain medicine down, like we were talking about a minute ago. I quit using morphine as soon as I got the cannabis and went to tramadol, and only had tramadol for a couple of days. And it was like, no, I don't need or want this anymore. I'll just use the cannabis. Thanks. And I think I've had one tramadol since I got home, and that's it.
It's so nice. And I always want to tell people I'm not like anti-pharma, like to have tramadol as you need it, but to be able to say, okay, I can walk away from it. Like that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And, and I'm not anti-Western medicine. I just think that there are less harsh alternatives that don't have the side effects.
Absolutely. And especially for people who are sick, who are in the hospital, they need less side effects, because very quickly it can turn into one condition on top of another, on top of another. And that's kind of where our senior population, a lot of people are now, is they don't even know how to get out of it at this point, because they're on so many medications and they're terrified. So if they had your guiding hand, you and your wife, to come in and say, let us help you, it would be such a service to the world.
I know 3 different people that have been committed to memory care facilities, not because they had dementia, because they were presumed to have dementia, but it was really just a misapplication of medication.
That is so sad.
And 2 of them, once they got the medication straightened out, were able to leave. And they'd been there for 2 or 3 years.
That is terrible. I'm sure that this is happening across the country, but that is really so sad when you think about it. It probably happens way more than we want to know.
It happens because they're stacking the medications and they're on so many different prescriptions, and then they don't feel good. They don't feel right.
Oh my gosh. I just feel like we're on the cusp of a revolution, really. And I feel like what you're doing is so meaningful, because I'm from the younger generation. A lot of us are like, we know about weed, we can go find information. But for our senior population, they spent their whole lives being told that cannabis is
bad. And it's really hard to overcome those thoughts. And so to have someone like a guiding hand to like, let me help you and show you the way, it would just be such a benefit for so many people.
Well, and you walk into a dispensary now and hell, I'm overwhelmed and I know what this stuff is.
Yes, there are. I mean, first of all, Oklahoma's dispensaries sound way better than New York dispensaries. So I would love, and I feel like I would be overwhelmed too with all of those amazing selections. But yeah, even going to the dispensary for the first time causes a lot of anxiety for people. And imagine if you had like a trusted friend or resource that could take you and be like, let's go together. How comforting would that be for people?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. No, in Oklahoma, they even have a thing where if you want to be a caregiver for elder care, people can get their cards and assign you as their caregiver, and you can go to the dispensary for them.
That is so helpful and nice. Think about how many people can't actually even go to the dispensary.
Exactly. And it's, in the movie, I think it was in The Union. No, it wasn't. It was the show on CNN with Sanjay Gupta. They talked to some doctors in Scandinavia that were using cannabis with dementia patients and having really, really good luck with it.
Oh my gosh. Imagine, I mean, how many people, I don't know if you see the news stories that they say, we're going to see a rise in dementia in the next couple of years. Wow. What if we had like an actual viable something to try at least? It would make such a difference in the quality of people's lives.
Yeah, I've seen it work and it's really calming. And it makes them less scared.
Doesn't everyone deserve that too? Like just thinking about like if whoever's listening on the other end, like maybe it's your mom and you're struggling or your dad with dementia. And if you're listening to this and thinking like, wow, if there's something that could make them calm and comfortable, like what a gift. You should absolutely give it a try. Even if, you've never done it before, just once, just to see if it helps.
But be careful. And be gentle. Yeah. And just don't start with a 25 milligram gummy. Find the medicine or use a tincture. Use something that's sublingual. Put it in a food. There's so many ways you can do this that are not intrusive, that aren't scary, and that we're not going to freak them out.
Absolutely. That's the number one goal. And, it's unfortunate that we just don't have this basic education given to us. We kind of learn from friends and family how to moderate alcohol and use it responsibly. And no one's there to tell us that about cannabis. And if we just had that basic information of like start low with a very low dose and be willing to experiment and be patient, I feel like people would be in such a better space because like you said, if you start too high, you're going to make them feel sick or unwell, and that will completely freak them out and they'll never want to try cannabis again, even if it could help them. So that is a great point, is just knowing where to start and how to be careful doing that. I have found this when working just with elderly folks that especially like the older they get, like the lower dose you need to start with. I'm talking like 1 milligram, especially like really teeny tiny frail people. Have you had the same experience?
The microdosing. Absolutely. Microdosing. And one of the things that came to me in the dispensary through a friend that's a bud tender, I got some 5 milligram candies that were a hard candy I could just suck on. And those things really helped a lot.
I bet, because you get a little bit of that sublingual and then you get that edible effect too. That's actually perfect for like an older individual too, because it's like not too in your face. They're used to something like that.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. No, and when I start somebody on RSO, we're talking about, a grain of rice or half a grain of rice, and be slow and gentle.
Yes. And have you found, I feel like I'm always reiterating this, but I really want people to understand this, that it takes a few different times to try cannabis in different doses, different application methods to really find what's going to work for you. I find a lot of people are like, give me the solution, the one and done pill. But with cannabis, it's not really like that.
That's right. No, it's every person has to kind of find what the way it titrates for them and how they want to take it and how much they want to take. And how they want to feel. Definitely. I've got a friend's mom. We all grew up smoking pot and it was bad. We were in trouble. And one of my friend's moms finally said, well, why is this illegal? This is stupid. And it's like, I've waited my whole life to hear those words. from you.
Yeah.
And I said, and you can't take that pain stick to the church and tell them about your knee because we're still in Texas and it's a felony for you and a felony for me. So we can't do that. But just hearing, but having somebody that's gone from, well, this is the devil's lettuce and everybody's going to hell, to well, this shouldn't be illegal and my knee feels wonderful.
Yeah.
And then she's taking gummies to sleep. How you liking the gummies to sleep? Well, I sleep really good. I'm happy.
And that's a big thing for elderly folks as well, is sleep. Like, without good quality sleep, you can't function in your day in any type of way. And for a lot of people, they don't want to be high. You don't have to be high. You can use cannabis to fall asleep and stay asleep and wake up in the morning and be totally fine.
And most of the sleep aids now have THC for full spectrum, but they're not high THC, and they're using more CBN and the other terpenes that will encourage sleep, the cannabinoids.
Exactly, because I find so many people are afraid of the high and don't realize that there are so many products out there that are designed to use that won't make you super high. There's a huge part of the population who is here for the wellness aspect, not the high aspect. And I'm sure when you go into dispensaries, you see those products. They're intended for wellness, not just for getting high. And I think people really need to hear that as we move forward and get more people in the door.
I agree. And it's, it's the medicine of the plant. It's the whole plant. It's the full spectrum. It's using everything.
Yes.
And we're not just spraying a gummy with distillate where we've taken it apart. My son, who's 41 and grown up in a cannabis friendly household, said we didn't legalize THC. We've commercialized cannabis.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my biggest goals is to get people to feel confident and self-sufficient enough to be able to grow a plant of their own so that they're not reliant on the system. Have you had the experience to grow at all in Oklahoma?
Not in Oklahoma. I got caught growing in New Mexico a little ahead of the game, and it was very expensive. It was embarrassing, and I found out I don't look good in orange.
Oh my gosh.
I got
crazy.
Arrested, and I'm now a felon because I was growing my own medical marijuana. And the DEA even stood up at my arraignment and said he wasn't selling it, Your Honor. Please take distribution out of the charges, because it was a boilerplate charge and manufacture and distribution went together. And the DEA actually had to remove distribution from my charges because I was a medical user, and I had gotten all happy growing it because I had a traumatic brain injury from a ski accident. And I hit a tree snow skiing going between 35 and 40 and fell 35 feet off the mountain.
Oh,
and lived. Spent a week in ICU. And in 10 days in there, I go back to my doctor after being home for 10 days and said, look, the current dose of Percocet's just making me sick now. I went to college in the 70s. We either have to take more or we have to put this stuff away. But the current dose is now just irritating me and making me sick. He goes, well, I'll give you another script of Percocet, and you have a week to get off of it. And if you don't get off of it, I'm going to put you on methadone. And don't go cold turkey. And he goes, and you tested positive for cannabis in the ER. Use it for pain. And he sent me home. And I didn't fill the Percocet anymore at all. My son made some brownies for me, and we started with cannabis.
And how did it go? Were you happy that that's how it ended up?
Yeah. It's all worked out like it's supposed to.
I'm so sorry that you were put in jail for growing your own medicine. It really is a stain on our history. I cannot believe we do this to people. It's a violation of human rights, I feel like.
Oh, I totally agree. Cannabis has been used for 5,000-6,000 years with not one single death, nothing, nobody's died from using it. And in America, we've criminalized it and we've ruined people's lives now for nearly 100 years. And we've put between 700,000 and 800,000 people a year in jail just for cannabis for over the last decade.
It's so sad. So I have a similar story. My father-in-law, who lives here on the same property with us before we moved in, he was growing his own medicine in the backyard. And I think he had maybe 10 or 20 plants, and supposedly a off-duty pilot flew over the property and it saw the plants. And so, everybody shows up at the house, the cops, county, state troopers, and he ended up arrested. He is now a felon. And he always says to me, he goes, I cannot believe that I was arrested and I am a felon for the exact same thing that you do today legally. And it always kills me when he says it because it's so true. I'm doing literally the exact same thing. And the only difference is a piece of paper from the government telling me that I'm allowed to. And I'll always feel guilty about that. I always feel bad because it's not fair. And there's really no, even if I did get his conviction expunged, it doesn't undo the damage that has been done to the rest of his life. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, I do. And but I just feel fortunate that I've been able to do what I've done and to live through what I've lived through and to be able to use it and maybe to be able to teach other people how to use it and share it.
If that's not the silver lining, at least you can turn your pain into purpose and turn that into helping somebody else, because ultimately, I feel like with cannabis, when we are so passionate about it, we feel so deeply about it, we have to share it with others. I can see your passion in sharing it with others as well.
Yes, ma'am. And I've been for over a decade, I've been spreading the word on RSO for Rick Simpson oil and now FICO, full extract cannabis oil. That's where the medicine for the plant lives.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's the entourage effect. So for anybody listening who's not aware, there's more than just THC to the plant. There's more than just cannabinoids to the plant. There's cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids. The plant itself has over 500 active compounds. And Dr. Ethan Russo proposed this theory of the entourage effect, where all of these things work together in synergy. And so it really is a magical kind of explanation. But when you think about it, if we pull out THC and we make a synthetic THC, it's a single molecule. It will never work the same as that full extract, like you said, that comes from all parts of the plant and includes all of the goodness of the plant. And so for anybody listening, the plant is magical. It has more than just THC to it.
Absolutely. It's a miracle. Everybody needs it for everything. One of the things, my wife has cysts. She gets the ovarian cysts.
Yeah.
And there's a pink patch in Oklahoma that you put on for ladies. It's called the monthly patch. And it's for when, ladies are having their cycle, their period. Yeah. But she was having a real bad day with her ovarian cyst. And put it on and got immediate relief.
Oh my gosh. See, there's nothing like that even in New York that I've seen. Oklahoma sounds amazing.
Yeah, no, the things like that, it's not about getting high, it's about making your body feel better.
Absolutely. And what other options do women have besides from reaching for a Tylenol or an ibuprofen or a glass of wine? Like, to have like a legit option, especially for women in like that reproductive health area, would be so nice if everybody had access to that.
Absolutely. And in California, there are quite a few ladies' products that they've developed, and they're coming more to Oklahoma. One of the things that we saw in Colorado, and I don't think this is off color, but lube.
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah, absolutely. And it's I've personally given it a try, and it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of people are maybe shy to talk about it, but as grown adults, it's important to talk about because other people are not hearing this in other conversations. But just like cannabis can help mental health, physical health, it can help sexual health, reproductive health as well. Its powers are limitless.
Absolutely. And we haven't found much lube in Oklahoma yet, and we've been asking about it. And in Colorado, you kind of had to ask, but then once you found the bud tenders that knew, we're like, oh yeah, and they'd get all excited to share it with you because it really does work well.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for people who get later in life, especially for women in menopause, that's hard enough on its own. If there's something else that can help to get through that time, like a lot of women, I hope listening to this will do a little research because you're missing out. It is a wonderful product.
It really is. No, I'm just, the way this has gone overall with the tinctures and the oils and the creams and the lotions. I like that a lot. There are a lot of things that people can use there. Like I use something from a company called the 788 Collection. It was started by a pediatric nurse, and it's called the Pain Stick. And man, it helps so much. It's been a life-changing product.
And I'm so glad you said that too, because that product, you just said it's a life-changing product, but for anybody who's listening who might be afraid of getting high or afraid of feeling unwell, when we use products on our skin, it doesn't necessarily make us high. And so that's a great thing for people to know. It's a great first step. And if you find relief, you're not going to get high, but hey, you could feel so much better. And I feel like that is huge.
Absolutely. No, I like the Pain Stick, headaches.
Yes.
Using it for headaches.
Yeah, so many people suffer from migraines. It could be so helpful.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am so excited, not only for what cannabis has done for you in your life, but the future of what you and your wife are going to set out to do. I want to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions I ask all of my guests. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the first one up, what are you most proud of to date?
I'm most proud of being able to integrate cannabis into my life in a way that doesn't make me look like a stereotypical stoner from the 70s, that we're using this as medicine, that we're highly functioning and highly happy.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect. A perfect way to say that. What do you think your life would look like if you didn't have cannabis?
Not fun, stuck inside a pen.
Yeah, nobody deserves that. I mean, if anybody listening who is living a life of pain, please listen to these words that cannabis could absolutely help you, because nobody deserves to live in pain. And I'm so happy that you have cannabis. And I know cannabis has been part of pretty much your whole adult life, but if you could go back 10, 20, 30 years ago and give yourself a piece of cannabis advice, what would it be?
Don't buy anything on the internet with the family closely held corporate credit card.
Yes, there are. It's a tricky situation out there, isn't it?
It was back then. But yeah,
God.
like you said, everybody came to see me. Everybody.
Oh, I bet.
They all had guns. It wasn't any fun.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that doesn't sounds like you came from an area of not friendly cannabis. I'm so glad you ended up in Oklahoma, which, I mean, I am still honestly surprised that it's so cannabis friendly. I'm so glad you've enlightened me on that, because
and I was at a ski resort in New Mexico. It wasn't like I was in Dallas, Texas, or someplace,
Right. Yeah. I'm so surprised that these backward states that just
if anybody hasn't seen The Union, there's a movie called The Union. And it shows how cannabis got made illegal. It's a really good story.
Ooh, I'll have to go watch that, because I feel like I'm not really up on the history of it a lot, but I definitely would be interested in seeing that.
It shows that it was a corporate setup, and the powers that be didn't want cannabis because it interfered with their corporate policies and products.
Yeah, we're here today. That's still where we're at, I feel like.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
Which is unfortunate, but I do feel slightly hopeful that we are moving in the right direction, at least, baby steps anyway.
And as we're legalizing it, a lot of places are pardoning felonies. And I've seen it, on the national front, when they've tried to legalize it, forgiveness of felonies is one of the things they've had on there.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think, eventually we're going to have to see it, just because so many people are really getting the bug and being like, this is life-changing and you should have never hid it from me in the first place. I feel like people are starting to wake up and be like, why is this happening like this? And I'm not okay with this anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, ma'am. Exactly.
So moving forward into the future, and I just feel like you and your wife are going to help so many people. If you could be remembered for one thing in the cannabis space, what would it be?
But I taught people. And I shared it.
That's perfect, because I feel like it takes person to person, conversation to conversation to really move the needle. And that's why I'm so glad that you were here today and share with us Honestly, a crazy story about what happened to you in the hospital in such a positive way, too. I'm so happy you shared that good outcome with us, because hopefully in the end, I hope someone will listen to this and be a medical patient. And we all have to go to the hospital at some point, hopefully be brave enough to even just mention it to their doctor and say, Bradley can do it. Maybe I can too. And hopefully bring someone true relief in the time that they need it the most.
Yeah. And Dr. Van Heuser, my cardiac surgeon's the coolest guy on the planet.
We are going to give him a big shout out. I mean, that is really, really cool of a doctor.
What a progressive guy.
Yeah. And I mean, look at the difference he's made for you. And hopefully he can make that for all of his other patients as well.
And we made it clear the difference that it made. We very carefully highlighted that so they could see.
Smart. It's so smart, because if it works out good for him the first time, he'd be more likely to do it the second time.
Exactly. And, I use things that I could highlight to them. And look, this was made by medical people.
Yeah.
Here's their track record. And you're like, oh, okay.
Perfect. I mean, hopefully your experience has been a ripple effect in that medical system. That nurse, that doctor, they tell another nurse, they tell another doctor. And hopefully this is how healthcare changes long-term with real positive solutions.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Bradley, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, for being so brave and honest and open, and for all the work that you're going to move forward doing and helping our senior population. Any last words of wisdom for our audience before we say goodbye?
Use it, share it, be careful. Don't give people an edible just to start with. Find something that makes sense.
Perfect advice. Thank you so much for being here today, Bradley. This was a great conversation, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Emily. It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for asking me. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You've finished another episode of the Well with Cannabis podcast and are one step closer to discovering how you too can live well with cannabis. Thank you for listening in today. We hope this episode has been a helpful and informative one. Please visit emilykylenutrition.com for more information on today's show notes, guest information, recipes, and other resources. If you want more support and encouragement on your cannabis journey, please consider joining the private Well with Cannabis community. In this group, you can connect with like-minded individuals focused on improving their health and wellness through cannabis. Join the group today to continue your journey of wellness together at emilykylenutrition.com.